Welcome to my channel. My name is Ahmed, and I'm a security researcher specializing in software security. I share content about open source intelligence, exploits, and programming languages like Rust, C, and assembly. So today's session will be, I guess, exceptional because we'll talk about the philosophy of cybersecurity and featuring a question answer session. And yeah, we'll covering topics such as certifications, learning process, and principles of know-how. And I'm grateful that Daniel accepted my request. And today I will ask him some questions related to cybersecurity and its future. So I reckon it will be great for beginners to get such valuable answers, so they can pave their own path. And yeah, you can follow me on LinkedIn, Medium, and Twitter, where I share resources. And of course, if you haven't followed me yet, you can do so. So as always, my first question should be, who are you? What are your pure interests, and how did you get started in this field, Daniel? It's your voice.
Well, thanks for having me on, Ahmed. It is a pleasure. I've actually followed some of your work in the past. I see you pop up from time to time. You always have something interesting or useful, which is things I like. So thank you for your contribution toward the community. It's nice to have people that are giving and not so much just looking to get. So I guess we'll get into a little bit of that as we move on. But I am Daniel Lowry. I am a cybersecurity trainer. I've been training cybersecurity for probably the last 7 or 8 years now. I've been in IT overall since 1999 was my first IT job. So a little over 20 years. I've done workstation support. I've done help desk. I've done repair. I've done systems administration at the enterprise level. I've done network administration at the enterprise level. I've done, updates and security, you name it. I've kind of touched a little bit of everything. Then I started working for IT Pro TV and doing their cybersecurity training offerings for them for almost 10 years at this point. So yeah, that's my career in a nutshell. My interests right now probably fall more on the red teaming and malware dev side of things. Really are piqued my interest. Trying to have find as much time as I can to do that, because I still have a day job that requires me to create content for a variety of different good folks out there looking to get skilled up. So I have to. It's a lot of shuffling time schedules to figure out how to get that all done. But it is really fun right now. I'm in the middle of taking the 0 Point Securities Red Team Operator course. Very, very nice offering. I've really enjoyed it. And if you don't have the money to buy something like or get the license for, should I say, like Cobalt Strike, which is a little pricey, the course itself gives you access to Cobalt Strike in a lab environment, so you can get some hands-on with stuff like that. So that's why I really like courses like that. And I wanted to give a shout out to I think it's Daniel Dugan does 0 Point Security. So shout out to them. Great labs, great content. I've really had a good time with that. And then how did I get into cyber? Great question. Glad you asked. It was a dark and stormy night, Sicily, 1923. No, I mean, it's just interesting, right? You watch movies and you see pop culture that, I grew up in the 80s. And so like that kind of thing, it was still very almost magical, right? That technology was starting to become more of a part of our everyday lives than it had been in the previous generations. So they were starting to make movies and pop culture that were very technologically centered. And every now and then you'd hit a movie like War Games or something that would kind of demonstrate and talk about, or Sneakers, that would be in the vein of a hacker, right? And then hackers were just these really cool techno ninjas and that just appealed to me. So I was always kind of interested in it, even when, and as I was getting into technology, and I started a Linux user group when I was like in my early 20s, and we always were interested in security and trying to figure stuff out, and started using Nmap back in the 90s, and those tried and true tools that we still use to this day. Nessus, I remember when Nessus was completely free and open source. It was really cool to be able to play with those tools and kind of get my hands on that. So I'd always been interested in it, but as you're probably aware, when I was coming up, it wasn't easy to get your hands on labs. There was no such thing as try hack me. There was no such thing as
Of course, yes.
hack the box. All these, man, we live in a golden age right now of so many great resources. We just had to build everything. I remember the first time I exploited IIS, right? The Microsoft IIS I think it was version 4. And it had this Unicode exploit that if you slap the right thing in the URL, you could exploit the machine and get shell. And watching, I think it was Ed Scotus. I found a video of Ed Scotus. He sold training and it had that in there. And I watched that and I did it. This was like early 2000s. I had to build those labs. I had to build all the Windows servers and clients and get IIS up and running. So it wasn't like I went to try hack me, logged in and hit the IIS exploit, room, and then followed the bouncing ball. I had to make everything work as normal, and then I had to figure out how to do the exploit. So that was kind of like how we got going. So it was much more difficult to do this stuff back when I was trying to figure everything out. But it was very interesting, and I learned a lot doing that. And as you kind of mentioned, and we're going to talk about the philosophy behind learning and cybersecurity and things like that. I think that went a long way to forge my thoughts and opinions on building that experience and learning and skill set.
Yes. Yeah, of course. I was fascinated by 3 years ago I get started to learn, maybe 6-7 years, maybe 6 years or 5 years, I'm not sure, but I get started to learn by TryHackMe. And there were a lot of great resources like CompTIA Security, red teaming, blue teaming, SOC, Security Operations Center, and more. So of course, nowadays you have Protostar where you can learn exploit development. I regularly share such content on my YouTube channel, and of course it's great, like Hack the Box and Pico CTF, like web security, cryptography, and more. And these resources are valuable, so you can enhance your skills. That's my perspective. Because there are a lot of rooms, and web security, as I mentioned, and it's great stuff.
Yeah, I am super jealous of all the people that are starting right now, of everything that they have available to them. I mean, YouTube. Just YouTube. If you just had YouTube, you're light years ahead of where we were at, with resources that could show you how to do something or talk about how to do things or have conversations like what we're having right now. Like that did not exist. If you grew up in my time, you had to go to IRC and bulletin board systems and read FRAC and 2600, and you had to wait for physical printed media to hit hopefully a bookseller near you or a magazine rack, because not everybody carried that kind of stuff. So just to get, and then the internet was still fairly new. I say fairly new. It was new. I remember when it came out. That was a lot of fun. And they were like, this is neat. And, dial up and all that. But to have all these great resources, that said, I will say this. I think you should absolutely be taking advantage of every single, hop from TryHackMe and then go to Hack the Box, go to Pico CTF, and just kind of make your way through all these proving grounds, you name it. They all have great material and stuff that you can learn. I've skilled up immensely using them. I would never tell anybody not to. But it goes back to my story about how I got started, and those labs that I had to build from scratch time consuming, right? Frustrating.
Mhm.
Can't tell you how many times I had to burn it all down and start all over. But I learned a lot. And not only that, but the experience of going through the difficulty of making it happen kind of solidifies that knowledge in your mind, right? When I've got,
Yes.
I tend to lean on TryHackMe as my example because they're probably um, their most used platform is, and the way that their system works, it holds your hand a lot, right? It gives you a lot and says, do this, or go and find, and that's really good. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with these platforms or that you shouldn't use them. I'm saying you should absolutely use them, but I like to say, don't rob yourself of the experience of struggling through something, because you think of things like I for a very short time when I was young, I joined the military and I got injured and I wasn't able to complete my stance in the military, but still always very interested in it. And you look at a lot of their top tier units, right? The Navy SEALs in the United States, and Special Forces and Delta Force, and these, and even around the world, like you look at the Australian Special Forces and the German Special Forces and the British Special Force. All these people have to go through some extremely difficult things to be able to put that hat on, wear that badge, or do whatever. But they also learn that they make them do that for a reason, because it brings them together, and that rough experience, if they can kind of stick through that, then they know they're going to be good at their job at the end of the day. It's the people that give up. It's part of that is to see who's going to give up. I kind of feel like this would be good for us in cybersecurity, to kind of push ourselves instead of just trying to hack our way to the finish line really, really quickly. And I get that. Everybody wants to get a job. Everybody wants to start doing this as a living. I got nothing against that at all. But I feel like we rob ourselves of some really good experience. That how many times have you as a hacker had to just not give up? That it just wasn't
Of course.
happening. Everything you tried wasn't working. And you're Googling until your eyes are spinning into the back of your head. And you're so frustrated. You take a breath, you take a step back, you go get a sandwich, you come back and you go, what if, and then you try something and it works, right?
Of
But
course.
because you didn't give up, right? You didn't want somebody to come and give you the answer either. You wanted to figure it out. That
Yeah,
mindset.
of course,
Yeah.
we also talk about the relationship between military and cybersecurity, because when we talk about discipline and focus, think of military training, as teaching you how to stay disciplined and focused. Like, we need to pay close attention to details. When we talk about cybersecurity, to spot potential threats and vulnerabilities, and similarly, finding focus in spiritual practices like meditation, of course, can help sharpen your mind for cybersecurity challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. And because I've, as a trainer, you kind of run into a lot of different types of people, a lot of different backgrounds that are looking to, kind of like what we're doing right now. You ask me from my experience, how can I best use and utilize my time to get the skills I need to be able to land a job and do this because I'm passionate about it. Cool.
Of
The
course.
the the thing that happens though is, let's say you get a book on Security Plus and maybe Pen Test Plus or some other, you go EJPT, whatever the case is. You learn a bunch of skills, you take the exam that asks you about those specific skills, and you pass. You get a certification. Now you're job ready. You go get a job role. They sit you down at your first day at work, and it is like, wow, this is not what I thought it was going to be. This is a whole lot different, because reality of as doing it as work is that there's a lot of assumed knowledge behind many of those certifications, that if you don't have that, you're going to have a hard time. I can't tell you how many people have said, I can't get this shell to connect. I'm like, okay, well, what's
Yes.
going on with your network? Why isn't, have you checked the network? Have you looked Wireshark or logs, or, is your, if you're using HTTP for C2 communications, are you seeing the logs where it's trying to connect, but something's happened? Like, There's plenty, but that's all foundational knowledge. That's assumed that you know how HTTP works, you know how TCP/IP works, you know about things like port forwarding and IP address and the whole kabang, right? Like you can't just skip that and move on. Now, some people do it, and for every example of someone that can say, "Well, I did that," I'm you are a purple unicorn. Not everybody can. If most people can't, right? They
Yes.
might be able to get that. They might be able to get that certification. They might be able to get that skill that does a hacking thing, but they don't necessarily really understand it because they don't understand the technology that it's built on.
Yes.
So that to me, start talking about philosophy of cybersecurity is
Of course. Yeah.
I
That's the reason. Yeah. Of course.
I was that guy. Like I was like, what do I need to know about that? I'm not doing web dev. I'm not doing, I'm not a network administrator. I want to do hacking things. Yeah, but if you don't know how those things work, then all of a sudden you're stuck with these gaping holes in your understanding on what's going on. Prime example, right? Can't tell you how many times people tell me or ask me, do I need to do programming? Do I need to learn programming language? Do I need to understand programming? Absolutely, you need to understand it. You don't need to be a web dev, or you don't need to be a full stack dev, or any kind of like traditional developer where I understand all and everything about and can build. But you need to be able to look through scripts and modify them, write your own tools, jank around with things. The first time I ran into it where I was like, oh, this is a problem. I don't know enough about programming to really understand this and make this stuff work. I was working on web applications, learning web app pen testing, and ran into like things like eval statements that I had access to through an interface. I don't know what that was or how that worked. And then you start reading, well, eval equals evil because you can do evil things. Because it runs code. Oh, it does? I didn't know that. I didn't know how that works. Not understanding how those things work together, databases, right? APIs, all this stuff runs just about everything we do. So if I don't get how that works, okay, I found something. What do I do with it? Oh, it's not working. Let's say I tried the thing and it didn't work. Does that mean it doesn't work? Or does that mean that thing didn't work? And if I change it a little bit and fiddle with it, it will then work. But I got to know what that does and how that works. And you do learn on the job, but I'd much rather kind of have that knowledge going in than have to try to play catch up after. And I just think that that's a better way to go about it. So I always tell people, I know you're not going to be a developer. Don't worry about that. But start learning programming language. It's super helpful to be able to write a script really quickly that does something automatically for you. And then you have it forever. And it sits in your GitHub. And anytime you need it, you git clone and pull it down and use it. And it's very nice. And you get yourself.
Yeah, of course. So I always, I'm always advising people, if you want to be like a system programmer or you want to learn low-level programming, you should be able to touch with assembly programming language. That was my first goal, learning assembly, learning about binary, because that's the goal. And then you should sharp, your skills. If you want to learn or understand C or C++, it doesn't matter. And most people do start with Python. And my question is, why did you start with Python? What's the goal?
So I would think that most people start with something like Python because it's accessible, right? If the difficulty to get into something like assembly has a much higher ramp than something like Python, right? Python is so much more easy. Honestly, I didn't even start with Python. I started with Perl and then Bash, and then Python became like very popular. So I still bash around a lot. I use bash a lot. It's built into just about every Linux operating system, if not all of them. I'm hedging my bets. But so it's useful. But Python is now becoming pretty ubiquitous as well, and it's got a very low ticket price to entry. It's simple. It gets people familiar with the basic programming concepts and flow. Tons of hacking tools and even exploits are built using it. So it seems like a good idea for everyone to just kind of start at Python And then if you want to get into exploit development and figuring that kind of stuff out, kind of like where you're at in your life, then you're going to go, okay, well, now I've got a skill set with Python that I can use for building tools and, playing around with scriptable exploits and things of that nature. But if I really want to get into exploit development, I'm going to have to up my game and bite the bullet and start learning the languages that are relevant to doing that job. So
Of course.
I feel
Yeah,
like that's why you see that a lot.
yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, so I'm particularly fascinated by software security, and because I enjoy reverse engineering and binary analysis, and for which I also have published a course in Udemy in Turkish. And I have completed a project where I utilized the Hydra API in my Python script for analysis and implemented PT load injection for Linux binaries. And yeah, maybe that makes me motivate, and this experience reflects my self-discipline and ability to work as an independent researcher. You can use Python, but the question should be, why should I use Python? Because of Linux binary analysis. Because I can use Hydra API in Python script. For instance, as an example.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, I thought you were going to give me a for instance. No, I totally get what you're saying. Yes, for instance, that is a great way to utilize Python as an independent security researcher. Is interfaces with the Hydra API. That's a great example, actually. And then all these are kind of like stepping stones, right? You got to have a path. Like I think one of the things that kind of stops people from progressing as quickly as they would like and being as advanced as they would like to be is that they don't really have a path. They're kind of bouncing from one thing to the next. They're looking at other people's paths and trying to follow that. It's one of the things that I've thought about quite a bit is how, how sometimes we'll get errors that say, absolute path is required. You need the absolute path. For cybersecurity, there's not necessarily an absolute path to get to where you want to go. So you can look at other people's paths and kind of mime them or mimic them, use them as a guide, but that's not necessarily how your path is going to go. So we do have generalities where that's why you see a lot of people say, oh, if I'm starting off, should I work a help desk job? Should I work at workstation support? Well, many people have been very successful at taking a help desk job or workstation support job and from there maneuvering into other areas of IT and then in security, if not straight to security afterwards, because you have a lot of advantages of being a part of an organization that has a help desk or workstation support team. They probably also have administrators and maybe even security teams. Nowadays, it's more likely than not they have an in-house security team, or you have access to their MSSP and the people that do that work. And now you can start to create relationships that start to build your career as people start to invest in you personally and go, well, I like Bob, I like Jill, they're super cool and they like to talk security and I like security. So that's always been a really great way to get it. It's not the only way to do it. It's just a really tried and true method for getting there. So you got to figure out, what do I think my best game plan is going to be? Where do I want to go and what do I want to be? And now that might change, but if you don't have a path, if you don't have a goal that you're trying to head towards, you can't just say, I want to be in cybersecurity. There's so much to cybersecurity. It's so, varied and diverse in its disciplines. Figure out what kind of makes you happy about it and start to follow that path. Start looking at those people that did that, talking to them and doing that. Cause I get it all the time. It's like, I want to get into cybersecurity. Cool. And what part of cybersecurity do you want to get into? Because there's tons. Do you want we rambled off a whole list of them, right? There's blue team, there's red team, there's SOC, there's just firewall people. There's people that tune next gen firewalls and do things like vulnerability assessments. Do I want to work in GRC. There's just so many different areas. Start looking at some of your heroes in the field and go, well, that's what I think is cool. What are they doing? What are the things that they're talking about? It's weird. It's almost, you pick up so much tribally that if you're involved in conversations and discussions, you're going to conventions, you are going to meetups, you're doing, being a part of those conversations that are happening online, whether that be in a forum or a comment section of a LinkedIn post or whatever, you pick up a ton of things where you go, I don't know what that means. Let me go Google that real quick. And especially in like a comment section, that's the safety net, because you don't have to look stupid. You don't have to feel inadequate because no one knows you don't know what that means, and you're under no pressure to say, I don't know what that means. You can just go Google it, figure it out, and go, oh, that's interesting. Oh, this conversation makes a whole lot more sense. And just doing that right there is a very great way to kind of that immersion into cybersecurity. Start finding the people that are doing the things that you really find interesting and start reading their posts, watch their YouTube, even contribute. I know you don't know anything, but say, I don't know anything. I have a question. Is what you're saying this? We love people. In my experience in cybersecurity, everybody loves someone that's not afraid to say, I don't know, and I need help. Yeah, oh man, you hear the rally cry, the horn goes off, and we all go, let's go. Okay, so you don't understand this. Let me show you, and then I'll send you some resources, and you'll meet so many people and get so far getting in with, and then all of a sudden you're part of a community, and those communities they're very helpful to each other. Oh, I know someone that's looking for a job. I think you'd be great for it. You mind if I pass your name along? Or, hey, I really need work right now. Does anybody know anything, or anybody that needs somebody? Well, they know who you are. That you are a known entity. They deal with you and they talk with you all the time. They're not just giving a random, hey, this guy, I don't know him, but he asked me to pass his name along. I don't know her, but that's not the case anymore. They know exactly who you are. They know what your skills are, where you're at, and what kind of person you are. And a lot of times they like a culture fit more than they do skills, because they can teach you skills. But if you're not going to gel with the other team members of the crew you might be working with, they really don't want to bring in somebody that's going to disrupt the flow of their efficiency. So having people know who you are and picking up that tribal knowledge and being a part of the community, even if you're new, is a really good idea, because you want to talk about getting up to speed quickly. That is probably your fastest way to learn things. Get in there. Don't be afraid to say, I don't know, want to help, and do everything you can to be helpful and be a part of the conversation. You'll pick up stuff so fast, it's not even funny.
Of course, I would advise, to those people, go ahead, just create an account on LinkedIn or Twitter, or I don't know, get into the community, Discord maybe.
Oh yeah,
why
Discord.
not?
Are you? Let me ask you a question. Are you a LinkedIn, a Twitter, Discord? What's your favorite way to interact with the community?
I think Twitter, because I want to be informed about technology and cybersecurity, and I think that Twitter is the best. It's the best way to get to achieve your goal and get resources and stay updated. Maybe,
Yeah, it is fast.
Really,
There's a lot, like, information comes out on Twitter super fast.
of
So
course.
if you're looking, I feel like, and you tell me if you're wrong, and maybe it's just my experience versus your experience. In my experience, Twitter is really good for, if I kind of already know what's going on, to stay ahead of what's going on. And LinkedIn is really good for, I'm new and I want to kind of figure out what's going on. LinkedIn does a good job of kind of giving you an idea of what the job landscape is like and what kind of certifications are being
Yes,
talked
of
about,
course.
and that kind of stuff. So it's always a both and, not an either or, but I think they all have their kind of philosophy of use.
So yeah, of course, we are talking about the philosophy of cybersecurity, and so I would like to ask you some question about. Okay, so we were talking about the philosophy, but how can philosophical thinking enhance our approach to cybersecurity?
Mm. Well, being able to be analytical, I think that people that are interested in philosophy, yourself, myself, we're analytical by nature, and then we can have that debate on nature versus nurture,
Of
and
course.
that's always a lot of fun. But wanting to know how things fit together, always seeing that puzzle, and having something inside of you that says, I gotta know how does that work? Or I always find myself kind of going down a rabbit hole, as it were. I see something, excuse me, it looks interesting, and the next thing I know, I'm 3 hours down a Google rabbit hole, just trying to figure everything out about that. Pardon me, I gotta
I got it.
ah excuse me. Yeah, my voice was closing up on
No
me there.
worries.
But yeah, following down that rabbit hole and just trying to figure out every little thing about it because I don't know what happens, but I guess it's the whole executive attention thing where go up in my lofty tower, shut the world off, laser focus in on something. I wish I had more control over that. I've thought about that a lot on how if I could, instead of just finding myself there, kind of guiding myself into that position to where I become so focused on something because I get so much more when I do that out of my learning and my study time when I've just kind of quickly and easily segued from one thing to the next, followed these little rabbit trails, and you come out the other end, you're like, wow, I learned a lot. I want to be, I'm really interested in because as a trainer, I want my students to be able to do that. I want my students to be able to go. I found that context seems to be the key, where if you contextualize things, you wrap them around some information, a story, people, you start to become emotionally involved instead of just up in your head, where you're just and using your brain academically and not necessarily to its full capacity on all the range of things. That tends to work. So through when I do training, what I'll do is I'll tell stories, I'll make stupid jokes, and I even get people that hate my stupid jokes and they hate my stories. And I wish you would just get to the thing. What they don't realize is that I'm engaging them in a way that's basically hacking their brain and making it stick more, even though they hate it. And I'm happy to have you hate me if you learned the thing that I wanted you to learn or that you needed to learn in a faster and better way where it stuck and made more sense. You were able to easily synthesize and apply that knowledge because we talked about Billy going in the server room and accidentally setting the server on fire. Whoops. That's an insider threat if I've ever heard of one. And, kind of going down those roads. So there's a lot of theoretical knowledge when it comes to cybersecurity as well. So you got to
Of
make it
course.
fun. You got to make
Definitely.
it more interesting. It's really hard to engage with a PowerPoint slide. So you got to have some fun. You got to have a laugh. So I'm always just trying to make myself laugh because if I'm having a good time and I'm laughing, even if it's dumb and silly, it's still more entertaining and more engaging. And therefore it tends to stick a whole lot better to the old gray matter. So that's what my thought is on that.
Of course. Yeah. Um, I I also think so. What you mentioned about uh, analytic thinking, and yeah, of course, I think my answer can be the same. If someone asks me, if someone asks me, okay, the importance of you know uh, thinking to get started in cybersecurity, maybe my answer may be the same of
Hmm.
yours. I
Wow.
I agree. I totally agree.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure that's not true for everyone, but it just seems to be true, at least
Of
generally.
course.
And in my experience, all anecdotal. I haven't taken the statistical data yet. Maybe one day when I have time, I'll start taking polls, and we'll do the research and figure it out. But until then, have some fun. If you're not having fun with it, what did you even get in the game for? To go be happy doing something else that does entertain you or makes you passionate. I understand that can't, not everyone in life can do that, and you got to pay the bills. And I don't begrudge anybody trying to get into cybersecurity because it's a good paying job, right? And there's plenty of work to go around. So, well, I mean, the ebbs and flows. Right now, we might be in a lull where everybody's trying to get in, but there's not a lot of jobs at this point in time. But that will change. As the economies change and move and shake, then those jobs will come back around as they need them. But there's definitely room for really cool people. And if you're just if you're passionate about it, you're going to do all those things. If you're just looking for a job that can make a good living, you still might be able to get in, but it might not be your thing. You'll probably get burned out on it very quickly because it is nonstop. So I did a LinkedIn post today. I think you saw it about.
I think Ghost the Wires.
What's that?
Or Ghost the Wires or
no, it wasn't Ghost. It was Dr. K's book. I had it. Yeah. It was the Complete Hacker's Handbook, if I think it was called, that I got in 2003. That was 21 years ago that I got that book, right? And I'm still learning new stuff every day, and I still find it interesting. But because I find it interesting, it's fun for me. People always say, like, how do you not burn out on this? I don't know. I really like it. I find it to be fun and engaging, and I like puzzles, and it seems like a puzzle, so it's like a game. And I like to win games. I don't know about you. So that's why probably there's a lot of gamers in cybersecurity. I feel like there's a pretty close correlation there that we like winning and playing the game. And then when we win, let's do it again. Now give me something harder. Give me something different. And so like this culture of gaming going hand in hand with cybersecurity, I'm not really surprised about because it seems to be quite a prevalent personality type to just want to see a problem, analyze the problem, come up with a solution to the problem, test, retry, overcome, achieve objective, lather, rinse, repeat.
Of course, it's like a hypothesis. You should surround the problem and you should think how to complete it. It's not easy, of course.
No,
but you can do it.
If it was easy, would you like it? Like if hacking was super easy, would you be as interested in it? No, probably not.
Yeah, of course. If I'm interested, why not?
Right. I mean, nothing wrong with working at a fast food joint, flipping burgers, making fries. Honorable job, and it needs to be done. People have to eat, and that's a great work. But I doubt that there's many people that go to work every day that do that and go, man, I just love making these burgers. And I can't wait to make the next one better than the last one. It's probably not how it's going. For us as cybersecurity, we do that. We get up in the morning and go, how can a problem. I can't wait. Now I'm going to get frustrated. I'm probably going to bang my keyboard a couple of times and, get upset and huff off and think, have a drink, take a walk, and then come back and go, all right, hold on. Let me see. Let me see if this works. And maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. A lot of times though, it does. And then you get to, let me text so-and-so. They're really good at this. Let me get my phone out here real quick. Let me ask somebody that's in my sphere and see, I'm trying to do that. And then maybe they don't know the answer, but they give you an idea. And all that. I love that, man. It's just so much fun, especially meeting up at conventions. I've been on a ton of different people's YouTube channels and podcasts, and I've had a ton of different people on my YouTube channel, not my YouTube channel, but my podcast definitely, and my webinars that I do for ACI Learning. I've done a lot of hanging out with people like John Hammond and Jerry Ozier and Heath Adams and all these people, and everybody's just so great. Everybody's a lot of fun. We get together at conventions. It's like a big family reunion. We get to talk to each other online, but it's super special when we get to meet up in real life, kind of sit around and talk about, what are you doing? I saw your video. It's so cool. And, we have a lot of fun. So I'm always telling people, go to these conventions where we're all going, because we don't care if you've never talked to us a day in your life. Please come up and say hello and join the circle, because we're probably talking about something that's fun and interesting.
By the way,
So,
I do like listening podcasts. Maybe I can find some, interesting things. Why
right.
not?
Yeah. Even security news in general, like just, well, look, listen to a podcast that's just kind of going through the week's security news. You'll be like, oh, what's Ivanti and why is that a big deal? Yeah, you'll find out real quick. Fortinet. Oh, yeah, security company that has trouble doing security. That seems fun. You look at what new malware is coming out. Looking at resources, like especially. So I really like the Hacker News, not so much for their articles, but because they link to the original research,
Yes.
especially when it comes to breaches that have been uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Where they've been they've disclosed. That's what the word I'm looking for. Breaches that have been disclosed, malware that's been developed and reverse engineered, and things of that nature. So that stuff is great. That's worth its weight in gold. You want to talk about a real life, hands-on, like doing something and looking and seeing the real thing, not something contrived for a course or a lab. Again, not that there's anything wrong with that, and that they're not useful. They absolutely are. But seeing the real thing, how do you put a price
Of
on
course.
that, right? That's super great.
Yeah, of course. So, I also have a question about, cybersecurity courses. Like, okay, so we talked about for Hackney, Hacktabox, but we didn't talk about, whiteboards. So, maybe I will get that answer from you. So, what are the advantages and maybe disadvantages of online cybersecurity courses compared to traditional classroom learning?
Yeah, glad you asked that question. That's a really good question. Because I've been both trainers. I've been a classroom trainer. After I got a handful of certifications, I was working at a training center because I was taking classes at night to get certifications. And I told them I didn't have the money to pay for the classes. So they gave me a job working the front desk so that I could take classes at night. So it was a really great place. That's where I met Don Pizzette. And, that's why I work where I work right now. And so I can talk to both being a classroom trainer and an online trainer and the differences, advantages, disadvantages, pros and cons. The pros to being in the classroom is you get to meet people, right? They're there with you. They're asking questions. You get to ask questions, immediate feedback. And I guess this kind of goes along to the same kind of, there's also like online live training as well, which is kind of a hybrid between traditional online training where I'm just watching videos and going through, labs and course material, versus an in-classroom training where I have a live instructor. So, that's a good way to go as well. They all have their pros and cons, but in that classroom, you have direct access to somebody, hopefully, that knows what they're doing. Not everybody knows what they're doing, and some people are just grifting and making a living selling people on hopes and dreams. And so do your research on any boot camps or in classroom, because they're typically quite expensive. Okay. And I don't want to see anybody lose out on any single bit of money that they have saved up so that they can try to advance themselves in their career, invest in themselves. And so I absolutely hate that. That said, with traditional training, it's usually very short, right? Boot camps, what are they, 2-3 days, maybe a week? If you're lucky, it's a 2-week course. And even then, you're drinking from a fire hose. You got tons of stuff coming at you. The instructor they've got limited amount of time, so they have to continue to go. They're probably leaving a bunch of stuff out and telling you, hey, look this up. Here's a list of resources, go to it. Here's the slide sheet, here's the slide deck. I mean, go read all that stuff. It's like, so I paid you $2, $3, $5, maybe $10,000 for you to hand me a slide deck. Not cool. I could, I could have looked up slide decks on the internet. I don't want to look up slide decks. I want you to tell me and give me hands-on capabilities. Let's do a lab. Let's show me this stuff. And they get to do a little bit of that, but because of time constraints, a lot of times you miss out on a lot. So what do you got to do? You got to retake the class, but they're still trying to cover the same ground that they cover because you got new people in that class. So that in-classroom training, the time constraints make it really, really difficult to transfer knowledge from the instructor to the student through directly, right? Online, different case. I can take as long as I want. I can talk about every topic to the nth degree, leave no stone unturned, make, 10 videos on the IP address alone and everything I know about that. So it can become this vast tome and reference. Then and it's usually pretty easily to sift through because you got an online thing. You just type in the thing you're looking for. It comes up. Things are tagged. It makes it really easy. There's a lot of pros to online learning. And I mean, honestly, so when Don approached me about coming to work at IT Pro TV, which is now ACI Learning, or IT Pro from ACI Learning, he said, let's make the training we wish we'd had. I said, oh, you're onto something there. He said, let's, how you sit through these online courses, and that used to be, and it still is in a lot of cases. If you get an online course and it's voice over PowerPoint, and it's very welcome to today's topic is insecure direct object references. These are very dangerous in your web application. That's not fun. That's very I'm asleep so fast. So online training can go that way really quickly. We used to call it going into instructor mode. You're going into instructor mode. Don't do that. Have fun, be engaging, have conversation, because that's engaging. So we learned to do that really quickly. And we all were kind of that personality, all the original OG IT Pro members and SMEs. We're just kind of that way out of the gate. I don't know how we all found each other, but we did. And we came together and started. That's how we wanted our training to be. It's because it's more fun. I don't want to sit there and listen to you drone on about the, multiple different, Wi-Fi specifications. Whoop-de-doo. And then you start looking at certifications and you're like, oh, why are you questioning me on that? Who cares? That's something I would look up on Google. So I was super happy to start seeing, and that kind of moves training into certification and skills. That certifications, that was CompTIA's realm, right? That was the ABCD, Microsoft, Cisco. They had certifications. And then EC Council comes out with Certified Ethical Hacker, but it's still basically an multiple choice exam, put this in the right order, not very practical, not very hands-on. Offensive security hits the world with OSCP. Okay, now we're on to something. A little CTFE, right? You're trying to. One of my big complaints about OSCP. The training is great. Their exam and their certification, obviously, very well known, very well respected. I don't want to piss on that too hard, but especially when it was more getting started, it was very much like solving a bunch of CTFs, which aren't necessarily. I hate tests that test you on how well you take a test or solve a puzzle. Give me a practical. If you're going to be hands-on, you're going to be practical. Make it hands-on and practical. Make it like the job. If this is the job I'm going for and it's not going to be a CTF, why are you giving me a CTF? Doesn't make sense.
So I want to ask you that, while doing a CTF challenge, should I look at write-ups? Because let's say I get stuck, I couldn't find the answer, but I want to improve myself in CTF challenges.
Yeah, you're supposed to try harder, right?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah, right. The old try harder.
Try harder.
So it's funny. There's some truth to that. There's some truth to try harder. We talked about this when we started this conversation. Is struggle your way through things. It's should you? Let's answer your question. You asked, should I read write-ups? Yes. Asterisks. Put the little star next to the answer yes. After you've tried and failed,
yeah, of course,
and realized I don't have any concept or context to what's happening here, and I don't know what I don't know. Now I need some help. And then you read,
Yeah.
you get that write up out and you go, okay, here it is. Okay, everything seems like I'm following the right thing, and here's where I'm stuck. Oh, I'm not familiar with that. Didn't know that this was a thing. Now I can go and learn about it. I can see what that's all about. Come back and try and see if I've learned it. If not, I go back to my write up. Okay, I did try that. I tried to. Oh, that's the little piece I was missing. I remember the first time I realized that is I just started getting into web application security and doing web application pen testing. I was doing a bunch of CTFs on VulnHub, and they kept talking about Burp Suite. And oh, you just changed this in Burp Suite. I'm like, how? How do you change this in Burp Suite? I don't know how to work this sticking thing. You guys just keep acting like I know how to do that. So I'm like, how do you change things in Burp Suite? And it was so easy that it was almost abstracted away from my logical thinking of you just type it in right there in the box. I didn't know I could click on the box and in the dialog window and you're like in repeater or intruder and make changes in the thing I was seeing. Oh, something I had to do or somewhere I had to click. I didn't realize I had already clicked that. And when somebody said, oh, you just type it in, right? Just click anywhere inside of that and start typing. I'm like, oh, gotcha. So I knew I needed to modify it with Burp Suite. Had no idea how to do that. Asked the question, raised my hand. So I don't know how to do that. How do I do that? They went, oh, you just click and start typing. I'm like, oh, I'm an idiot. You know, I feel so stupid now. And they're like, don't worry. We're all born noobs, right? Everyone is a noob at something. So it's totally fine. Just don't stay there, right? Continue to learn, add to your skills, move on, and share with others. It's that simple. Cool. So that's what I started to do. So that is where I'm totally for reading and using write-ups, because they probably got something. And I would even say, let's say you solved it without any help whatsoever. Go read as many write-ups on that particular problem as you can, because maybe somebody did it a different way. Maybe somebody found something different and did a tool or did a technique you were unfamiliar with. So now you have context to apply to the new technique or tool or both. You put those together, you've learned, you have grown, you are better than you were yesterday. So that's what it's all about, hopefully.
So
anyway.
This can be challenging, I guess. Let's say, okay, I'm familiar with Nmap or Rascan. Let's say I've been learning, I don't know, Python. So I might say that, okay, I'm going to create Nmap or, like that in Python. It can be challenging.
Oh, absolutely. I've done it.
You can understand how it works,
Yeah.
the methodology, how it works, the structure. Maybe.
Right. And think of all the things you learn. Let's say you never use your own tool again. You just built it. You learned. Now when you're using the standard tool like Nmap, you kind of understand what's going on under the hood. And if it doesn't do what you think, you can go, well, you know what? I bet it's running into this problem. The more you know about your target and its environment and how everything works and fits together, what's going on underneath that hood, the more likely it is that you are going to succeed at obtaining your objectives, which are, gain entry, find sensitive data, or secure it. If you're on that side, I typically speak about the red team side of things because I'm more interested in that. But it's the same is true. What do they say, that the best blue teamers were pen testers and red teamers, and the best red teamers were always blue teamers, right? It's like, because you know all the tricks from the other side of the fence, and you're like, wow, as a blue teamer, we put that firewall up, and there's a little issue that if you do this and that and the other, you can go, yep, and we're around it, and we're not getting caught by the firewall. Cool, right? And the same thing applies. So just start learning everything you can. That's why we say that cybersecurity is lifelong learning. You never stop learning. I hope you like learning and studying and reading and watching YouTube and being a part of that.
It's totally free. YouTube is totally free. You can watch it.
No money. You watch some ads. Yeah, you pay for it with some advertisement. Okay, yeah, I can sit through an ad or two. Not going to kill me, especially since, and I will say though, being in the training space, I kind of know what everybody's charging, because we have to stay on top of who our competitors are and how much they're charging and what they're offering so we can stay competitive. It's not that bad. It's far now. Some of them are. There are still plenty of them out there that are like, whoa, that's a lot of cash. That's a lot of money that you want for that training. But for the specifically like the subscription-based services, they're typically between $20, $30, $40 a month. A lot of them hover around that $20, $30 area, which for some people is still a lot of money. And I totally get that. But those prices are way less than what they used to be for cybersecurity training that you can get in super high quality. And the difference between, while you still, and I do hope you do, go search YouTube, find good playlists, make good playlists, and subscribe and like to all the stuff that you see that was good and useful.
Create your own playlist. Like you can create your own videos or write blogs.
Absolutely.
Why not?
Yes. Do that, because now you're adding to it instead of just, you remember, torrents used to be really, really popular, and, people would download movies and everything like that. And you always had the leeches, the people that never contributed to anybody getting anything. They just wanted to download. They never wanted to make it available to other people to for uploading. Don't be the leech, right? Put it back. Not only that, though, it's twofold win. You win twice because A, you're being cool and people like you when you're cool, right? And that's going to open job opportunities and relationship opportunities that you wouldn't have otherwise. B, that is something that becomes like you're giving back in a way. You're building a profile that is now a part of your work experience. You get to put that on your resume, right? So if you have Medium articles, or you just have like your own blog, you're making YouTube videos, you're contributing on LinkedIn conversations, you're posting all the time, you're, going into live streams and being a part of the conversation. You're doing all those things. Maybe you got a meetup. You're doing all this stuff. You got a GitHub repo with all the stuff that you've built that already exists in a million different ways, but it doesn't matter. It's still yours and you did it. It shows that you did it, not somebody else. You have built. And as a developer, Amit, how many certifications are in the development space that are really recognized and valuable to a developer to getting work, would you say?
0.
Right. And yet these developers keep getting work and high-paying jobs and stuff that they enjoy. How do they do that? They build things. They are very communicative, right? They get together and they do stuff and they go, oh, I'm working on this project. And then they get a job and that becomes a part of their work experience that they get to put on their resume and go, oh, well, if you go over to Bob's Used Tires, I built that website and I built the database back in and I built the API and this is how it all works. So when you go to Bob's Used Tires, you're looking at my work. And they go, oh, and here's my GitHub with all my own personal projects that I did.
Of course, GitHub. Yes.
It's the same thing for us. Like we need that too. And now, not only we do have certifications that are recognized and are valuable and usable. So if you're looking to get into military contracting or working for because if you get into pen testing, it's almost invariably that you're going to be working on something that, you're signing NDAs. Let's put it that way. You're going to be signing NDAs. And you have the certifications that kind of give you the actual cred that you need for that. And now you also have street cred that says, oh, look at all the things you do. You're not just talking the talk, but you're walking the walk. You're not someone that just hacked their way to a certification and is trying to get a job. You're really into this. Look at all these things that you're doing. This is crazy. Wow, we would love to have someone with your passion and experience and drive on our team. Welcome to the show, and shake hands, sign contracts, and we'll see you on Monday. That's the kind of thing. So it's that twofold. You're earning that street cred, and then you get to use that street cred to gain employment at opportunities that you would really enjoy. So don't rob yourself of that. Make sure you're doing those things. Is it time consuming? Absolutely. Here I am spending time with you, Amit. You're spending time with me. I could be playing with my kids right now, right? I could be watching a movie, but I'm more passionate about doing, not than my kids. I love my kids. I covet every second I get to hang out with my children. But I'm also pretty passionate about doing cybersecurity as well. So
I think the biggest problem is resources are publicly available on the internet, but people, I think that they cannot use or they cannot use such resources. They cannot use it. They can find it, but
yeah,
they cannot use it.
I think that and hopefully I'm understanding you, is I think that that's one of the advantages of going to a pay for platform is everything that you need has been built and curated and is walking you through everything you need to do. You don't have to build anything. You just log in, you use the platform. They have guided labs. They have, so as long as you have a laptop with internet access,
Of
everything
course.
works, right? So that is the advantage of like one of probably the biggest advantage, honestly, of going with a paid for platform is you don't have to go out there and search it out. You don't have to try to figure out and cobble everything together. You kind of get this path and it's all just laid out in front of you and you just follow the bouncing ball and do the thing. So find one. I've seen a bunch of them that are out there. Like I really liked Pentester Lab. That was a great, if you're looking into web application security, that's a great platform. Hack the Box is really good. If you don't like hand-holdy stuff, if you want to just get in there and fail your way to the to the finish line, Hack the Box is definitely for you. I love their, oh, this is an easy box. And you're like, easy? What's easy about this? I don't understand. And then you get a hard one. You're like, this was so easy. What's wrong? I think they're just pulling labels out of a hat and sticking it on these things, because I feel like an idiot half the time when I'm failing at an easy box and breezing through a hard one. I don't get what's going on here, but I digress.
You should start from easy boxes and then sharpen your skills and then intermediate and then advanced, and
Yeah,
you
they've
cannot
got great
hop
training now
into it.
too.
Yeah,
They've come up with their Hack the Box Academy. It's great. I know John Hammond. He took their exam and he took it lightly and he did not pass. And he's a smart dude. He passes everything. And I was like, yeah, that's no joke. If you don't really focus and study, he had a lot of things pulling him different ways at the time. So I'm sure that I have no doubt if John was to be, I'm really going to try for this, he would pass it without a problem.
hopefully.
I love it. Well, he came out, publicly and said, oh, I took the Hack the Box certification and failed it. And here was my journey. And that's the other thing you can do. Talk about your failures. Don't just try to like be cool on social media and say, look at all the things that I've done, how great I am. That ego stroke is so easy to want and to fall into that trap. But how many people have said, because if you watch my training on like IT Pro, I leave in a lot of the mistakes that I make. If I type something wrong, I'm like, oh, that didn't work. Let me see what's going on here. Look at the help file. That is part of the actual process. And I don't want to rob you good folks of that either. Like, so I don't remember everything. I'm not a savant or perfect in my memory. So I'll struggle with stuff and go, oh, why doesn't this work? There's always something I forget. I'm a human and I make mistakes.
Of course.
I leave those in because I want you to see that. I want you to see that I make just as many mistakes as anybody else. And in real life land, you're going to go, oh, I mistyped that. I forgot the semicolon there. I didn't hit enter. That's a problem. Yeah, these things happen. So it's really cool when you put your failures. Hey, I tried to do this. Here's where I struggled. You never know how many people might go, hey, I know a lot about that. Here's a great resource if you struggled with cryptography. Cryptography hard. Yeah, as you know, like that. To me, that stuff is voodoo. Like just the math that goes into doing cryptography is just insane. And that twists my brain in ways I can't even imagine. So I avoid it as much as possible. I just say cryptography, do cryptography things. Yay. Is this good cryptography or bad cryptography? It's good. Okay. I like it then. But if you're into that thing though, and you're struggling with X, Y, or Z, and you say, man, tried to figure out how AES works today. and really failed at this. I don't understand X, Y, Z. I guarantee a ton of people will come out and say, here's a resource. Oh, I struggled with that too. And it makes you feel better, A, because you're not alone. You don't feel like a loser. You don't feel like you're just the dumbest person trying to figure out these hard things and everybody's just getting it and you're not. I hate that. I hate that feeling. I hate that the artificially that is happening, or that happens on the internet, where you just see everybody, oh, I got this cert today. Oh, I passed with this. I did that, got this job, did that, blah, blah. And you're like, I haven't done anything. I'm over here struggling on a Hack the Box CTS F that's labeled easy and it's not working. And you just start feeling bad about yourself. Put that up, man. Working on Hack the Box today, doing this box, it is super hard for me, even though it's labeled as easy. I'm trying to figure it out. Anybody know? Can you point me in the right direction? I don't want the answer. I just want to be pointed to the right resource to help me with that. So someone's going to be like, oh yeah, I struggle with that too. You're going to find your people that way, and you're going to make a lot of really good contacts and relationships that way. So then someone's going to come along behind you. Not only that, someone's going to come along behind you and have the same exact problem you had. And they're going to find your post and go, aha. And no, look, there's a list of resources here. Yes. You see how it kind of like it feeds itself. It's like a feedback loop where as you contribute, you get things contributed back to you, and then that contributes back to other people, and it keeps going. We want to build that loop to be big so that anytime we want to try to figure out, you remember at the end of the day, we're not the bad guys, right? I always ask people, I can't believe you teach people how to hack. Isn't that bad? I'm like, so it's like learning karate, right? Or jujitsu or some martial art. I can use that martial art to go attack people and steal their money. Or I can use it to defend myself and loved ones. The karate or the martial art is not the problem. The problem is the person that's using it. There are definitely bad people out there. What we're trying to do is make it so easy for us to defend against them that our kung fu is so strong that they are completely rendered ineffective. That's what we want to see. So I want to help people. I don't want to make anybody feel bad. I love that we're like aging out this idea that we come behind someone that made a mistake and clicked a phishing link and, wrap them on the knuckles with a ruler and go, that was bad. You don't do that. We told you about clicking on links. And we go, I'm so glad you told me that you clicked on that link. Now we can start to fix the problem. And good on you. We'll do a little remediation training to make sure that you don't make that mistake again, but you're not in trouble. And we're going to be better because you told us sooner. That's what we should be doing. And then us as the professionals are building better defenses with tighter controls, better tuning, because we're sharing that information. It's not like I'm just trying to keep my organization safe. I'm trying to keep your organization safe, because there's things out there like supply chain attacks, where we're all kind of living communally in a way where if I'm using your software and your software gets popped and breached, now I'm a victim. We want to avoid those things. So if I know something that can help and I give it out to the community, the people that are, developing that software that I'm using could use that maybe and make stronger software, make stronger defenses, and therefore we are secure. We need to be making more secure systems just by nature.
So, of course, so in order to prevent yourself, you should also understand the black side of cybersecurity. We are talking about hacking. So
yeah,
why not?
yeah, why not, right? Don't do that. Don't go to the dark side for sure. I mean, yeah, they make a lot of money, but you got to look yourself in the mirror. And if you're cool with that, then man, you got problems. That's all I can say. You got some issues. I don't know why your mom didn't love you enough, or you didn't have whatever going on. Maybe that is the case. Again,
so you told us about that you have a military background. So I have a question about military and cybersecurity. So how does military discipline, influence cybersecurity practice and maybe protocols with organization?
So from what I have read and what I've experienced as well, is that discipline is like a muscle. Like if you
Yes.
work it out, it becomes stronger. The same, it's really kind of tied in with the idea of the human will and what you will to do. If you put yourself in positions to do things that you are uncomfortable with, that are good for you, right? Not like, hey, I'm going to go, burn myself with a lighter or something. Like, no. What I mean is like, I'm not comfortable not knowing how to do this and being told I have to do it. If I'm disciplined enough to just work my way through that or put myself in those situations. So going to the gym is a really easy example that we can all kind of relate to. Going to the gym is not easy. You gotta be regimented. You gotta do all the workouts. You can't phone it in if you want it to be effective. You have to, like as they say, no pain, no gain. My guys at my gym used to say, no hurt, no big shirt. So if you want to be big, you gotta push that weight until it hurts and not be afraid to go for another rep after that. And so the more you do that, and the same thing is with cybersecurity, right? The more you discipline yourself and say, I'm going to get up every day at this time. I used to get up every day at 5 o'clock, or was it 4? I think it was 4 o'clock. Yeah. I would get up every day at 4 o'clock. I would get dressed, I would go in early to work, obviously. And for 2 hours, I would learn cybersecurity. I would just focus in on learning something from cybersecurity. I would do that for 2 hours in the morning every day, except the weekends. The weekends I spent time with my family, right? And
Of
then in the
course.
afternoon, I would devote 1 hour after like dinner or something. I would go spend 1 hour. So I spent 3 hours a day. I did that for months, and I learned a lot of stuff in a very short amount of time because of the discipline. So disciplining yourself is a hack, right? That is a hack to getting stronger faster. Taking your time and kind of messing with it and going, oh yeah, I'll get back to that. And then instead you're playing, Borderlands. That's not going to make you a better hacker. That's going to make you a better Borderlands player, right? The thing that you invest your time in, the more disciplined you are with that, it's going to steal your will. It's going to make your will stronger to do it. It's going to make it easier for you to engage in it, and it's going to make you better at it and more focused at it because you're training your brain to want to do those things. And once you get there, once you get into that mindset, then it becomes a whole lot easier. It just becomes how you live, it just becomes your life. And you'll be sailing. You'll be learning so much so fast, and you'll be enjoying it.
Of course. So okay. Um, so should I be certified? I guess no, or well, because I'm not certified,
Okay.
but I built my own tools.
The answer to that question is absolutely, positively, maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe, right? So if you're looking at a specific job that requires a certification or you can't get the job, go get certified. Go get the certification. If you're looking at jobs that seem to have a proclivity toward a specific certification, probably wouldn't hurt for you to go get that certification so that you can put that on your resume and say, oh, I got that certification you guys are looking for. Cool. If not, I would love to see it become, honestly, like I would love to see cybersecurity become, if you got it, great. If you don't, that's fine. It's mostly if at that point, it would be if you need a certification, it's probably because it's government work, and governments are a little more, stringent about their requirements. You have to have a DoD 8570 or 84, whatever it is now. They changed the name, but it used to be 8570. It has to be 8570 compliant. Nothing you can do about that. The government is going to go, well, we know Bob. He's cool. He doesn't need that. They're not going to do that. It doesn't happen, right? They go, you got to put it on the resume. You have to have that certification. We have to be able to verify it. And then you can have the job. Sometimes they'll hire you and let you study with the expectation that you'll get the certification. And if you don't, you're fired. So I've seen that, but a lot of times they just want you to have it. So if you're looking to get into government work, you're probably going to need those certs. We still need them a lot of times, but I like to keep my finger on the pulse of job posts and job listings just to see what kind of jobs are available. Are they still pretty happy with doing remote work, or are we seeing more hybrid? I kind of want to see so that I can best help educate people that are listening to my training or things like what we're doing right now. And I've definitely seen a little bit of pullback from remote work, by the way, that they're wanting people to start coming back into offices more often than not. Still pretty good with remote work, though. So don't get too crazy. Don't get too upset or weirded out. But certification wise, I've started to see a trend where when they say requirements, OSCP, Security Plus,
Yeah.
or similar, we're starting to see that or similar. Not it's just OSCP or it's a no-go, or it's just pen test or whatever certification that they put on their thing or it's a no-go. They're saying if you have something similar to this, because the people that have kind of aged out of those hiring manager arenas have now been replaced by people that came up knowing there's a ton of certifications out there. How can I really just choose one when they all kind of cover the same stuff? What I can do is say, here's the one that's most recognized, and go, if you've got something like that, you're on the table. It's totally fine. I'm just not going to list every certification under the sun. And even if you don't have that, but you have that experience, you have that skill set, apply anyway.
Of course. So that's the reason why I don't like jobs landscape on LinkedIn. So, when you look at the requirements of, to be applied, you should be certified in OSCP, you should be certified in Security Plus, at least 20 years experience. Why? So,
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, that whole needs 20 years experience in Kotlin or whatever. It hasn't been around that long. What are you trying? It doesn't make any sense. How are you going for that? That right there is just bad HR. That's where that comes from. There's just HR has no idea what they're talking about. They've been given a list of things. It would seem to me from the people I've talked with that a lot of hiring managers aren't actually involved in the process of creating the job posts. And that's where we see these crazy janky out of the realm of possibility, even job posts. The other thing is when it comes to cybersecurity and quote unquote entry level. And this is where you can definitely get into a religious war over, is cybersecurity an entry level job, or is cybersecurity, does it have an entry level aspect to it, which comes after you've spent some time in IT?
Yes.
That's a great question. I would think that generally it's probably the latter. Generally, they think that you have spent time as an IT worker, probably done some time in a help desk or workstation support, maybe even been a sysadmin, hopefully, for a couple of years. And so you've been around the block once or twice, you know about technology, and now you're ready to move into cybersecurity. You probably got a cert, maybe some skills, got to get, all the things we've been talking about. And so 2 to 3 years experience. Right? That's where people, well, how do you need 2 to 3 years entry level? Well, that's where, because you've been working in the business for 2 to 3 years. They don't mean 2 to 3 years experience in cybersecurity. They mean 2 to 3 years experience in IT, which I guarantee you have touched security. You've changed passwords. You've had to disable accounts. You've had to go, oh, wow, there's a malware outbreak in finance. We got to go clean that up. So you've done some incident response. You've probably sat down at a tabletop exercise or two. You've done a couple of those things. You've worked with the antivirus and EDR solution. You're probably monitoring a log or two. You've had your hands on. So that generally, don't hear me say that this is exact every time, that this is a universal truth. But generally, that is what you're seeing when it comes to, that's why it's 2 to 3 years. For those people that think, I want to go, that cybersecurity is, I've never done anything. Again, it's possible. I know people that have done it. their first job in IT was as a pen tester. That is not common. It can be done. So if you've got that skill set, that's cool. More power to you. But if you're looking for the tried and true path to, it's probably going to look something like. Now, does that mean you can't hack around that? Absolutely not. And you should. As a hacker, as someone who wants to hack, that is the way you think. Okay, I don't care what I'll clean the bathrooms if you let me near the IT department and go, hey, you guys are in IT? That's really cool, man. I'm super interested now. You mind if I have lunch with you? And you sit down. Look at the access you have. So if I can get a job as workstation support, yeah, it's not my forever job. Hopefully, it's a stepping stone. It's meant to be a way. Think of it as initial access, right? Go down, do your recon, find a company that's got a great cyber program or something like that, and then find the initial access point. What's the weak spot? Wow, they got a huge help desk. I bet they got a lot of turnover because that job is tough. So I'm going to go in there. I'm going to grind a little bit. But now I'm in. Now I've got insight. Okay, now I'm going to look for pivot and laterally move. This is the what we do. You're going to use the same methodology as you would as a hacker to hack your way into the job you're looking for. I got a friend of mine. He ran into me randomly. He lives in the same town as I do. We ran into, he goes, I know you. You're on LinkedIn. You're Daniel Lowry. You do cybersecurity. I watched your videos and I've done this and followed your training. It's great. I love it. We started talking and he's like, I'm working workstation support right now. I really want to get into cybersecurity though. I was like, here's what you do. Start looking for people that are in cybersecurity that work for your company. Send them a message, talk to them, tell them how interested you are. He has done that. Fast forward 2 years, he is now the head of AppSec security for his organization. Wow. So he only spent like a year on the help desk. And now he's the head of AppSec security. And they just hired somebody that's been a red teamer for 10 years who is now on his team, who is saying, oh, you're interested in red team stuff? I'll teach you everything I know. For free. Because he just wants to be a cool guy and he likes the guy. Yeah. That's how it works. Like, this is the best way. Hack your way into these positions. That, don't try to hack their systems and go, oh, I was able to hack your systems. How great of a hacker am I? That's illegal. Don't do that. That's a great way to show you don't care about the rules and they can't trust to have you on their team because you might break the rules. What was it? The Uber guy, right? The CISO from Uber was like one of the, maybe not a CISO, but like an administrator for Uber, hacked them, stole their data, and then told them it was a pen test. It's like, that's not how this works, dude. You don't hack our own systems, steal our data, encrypt it all, and then tell us, pay you $150,000 or $1 million, or whatever it was. That's no. But what you do is you look at the system that they have in place. So that's why you typically see people telling you, look for a help desk job. What about cloud? Cloud administration is like a really hot job. Plus, it pays pretty well.
Of course.
And people need it big time because it's still fairly, I use the term fairly new. It's still fairly new in the sense that we're now moving everything into the cloud, where it's now more cloud heavy than it is on-prem heavy. And they don't have enough people to admin those systems. So it's constantly go on Indeed, go on Dice, go on Monster, start looking at cloud administrator.
I think that cybersecurity companies should create their own CTF platforms instead of asking, do you have any sets or do you have any experience in this field? You can ask him, can you solve this challenge? Because you might see his skills, I guess.
And a lot of organizations in the enterprise space, by policy or regulation, they must first offer internally so if they have a job opening comes up, they will offer that job to anyone. They'll post it internally and say, we're looking for someone in our cybersecurity to join our cybersecurity team. We need 1, 2, 3 people, whatever the case is. Here's the skills, and the people that work for that company have the opportunity for a short amount of time to be first in line to obtain that job. So that's one of the reasons I always say, get in with a company doing technology if you can, because you might be first in line to the job that they're getting ready to throw on Indeed. And you might and now they don't have to, right? Because, we didn't even know you were here. This is awesome. And a lot of them do have, I know a lot of companies, especially pen testing firms, that they do have CTFs. They do have external things that allow people to show their skills. And I remember, I think it was a company in Tampa. They posted a job post, and I was looking at job posts, and I saw this job post, and they posted this job post, and I noticed that it was really friendly. It was a really friendly job. I'd never seen a job post. Most job posts are very to the matter of
Nice
fact.
one.
Here are the skills and here are the thing. And they were like, do you want to have fun and hack things and hang out with people and hackers all day long and then go do it again the next day and have a really fun. I was like, wow, these people are really gregarious. And then I noticed that there was a string of text, and I was like, that looks base 64 encoded. What is that? What is that doing here? So I grabbed it, then decoded it, and I was like, okay, this is another weird thing, but I'm pretty sure that was base 64. So if I've unbased it, and I started following the breadcrumbs, and then it was, that's what it was. I'm remembering now. It's been a little while since I did this. A base 64 decoded it, and it was an email address, but the email address was really odd. And I thought, well, maybe it's like a UUID with the, with their domain at the end of it. And that's where you submit your resume. Like, that's really cool. They give a little CTF challenge, but I kept looking at that email address and going, there's something familiar about the way that looks. And I'm like, maybe is this like ROT 13 or something? And I realized it wasn't ROT 13. It was like ROT 14 or ROT 12. They were one or two off.
I see.
And so I built a bash script to permutate through every ROT possibility from 1 to 26 until it spit out an actual, it was like something that looked like an email address. I was like, oh, there we go. Okay.
Let's go.
Let's submit to that. So I just kind of sent them, I was like, hey, found this. I was looking at these things, and they're like, not very many people get this far, even though this was a fairly simple thing. And then a lot of companies and pen testing companies, they will give you a test, like a legit, here's a little cyber range that we've put together. And, here's a list of things, go find them, kind of like a scavenger hunt and see how well you do. If you don't do well, I literally had a guy contacted me and said, I did an interview. The interview went well. Then they gave me this hacking test and I failed it. And I said, okay, what happened? What was the big problem? And it was something with Nmap scans he didn't know about. And I was like, really? You didn't know Nmap scans that well? That's kind of like, that is one of the most foundational skills. How did you not know that? And I thought, oh yeah, here we go. This is one of these people that tried to jump to the finish line. And they knew what Nmap was, and they knew what it did. And they had maybe some basic understanding of it, but not a practical understanding of it. So when they were faced with an exam that wasn't for certification, it was for more practical means for a job, they weren't able to complete that. So I'm like, see, that's the problem with skipping over things. That's the problem with not really kind of going, if Nmap is a tool that pen testers use on a regular basis, I'm going to know that tool. I'm not going to walk in there going, what do I do again? Oh, not really strong on the Nmap. Like, nope. You are going to learn that tool. You should learn Nmap, Metasploit, Burp Suite, FUF. So maybe if you're getting into exploit development like yourself, you got to know a bit about Ghidra or like DGB and IDA. You should know these tools fairly well.
Of course.
because that's what you say you want to do for a living. I'm not going to hire you so you can learn it. I want you to kind of know that stuff. And I remember talking to the guy that I did that CTF for the job post. He actually called me and we were talking. His name was Sean, and Sean was like, man, we get so many people that apply for this, but they don't have those foundational skills. And, it was another big thing he talked about was soft skills, is not knowing how to write reports, not knowing how to deal with the paperwork side of the job, because they just thought it was all flash. They thought it was all sizzle of hacking things and typing things in URLs and throwing commands at machines and looking for privilege escalation and doing pivoting and exfiltration and working with C2. And that stuff is super fun. I love every last second of that. But if you think that that is the majority of the job, you are going to be very disappointed if you do land that work. So if you get a job as a pen tester, even if you work in like SOC, you're going to be looking at logs and handling and triaging alerts all day long, which 9 times out of 10 are going to be false positives. It's a lot of like mundane filling out change requests and forms. There's a lot of just typing and writing up what you're doing and asking for permission to do it half the time. Hey, is it, looks like there's a problem is with the logging system here, and it's throwing these, false positives. We need to tune the thing, change requests for, you go through your change management system to do all that stuff. It's a lot of just like, corporate work and talking to clients and talking to executives and people, and you have to talk to them at their level because they're not techs. If you cannot talk to an executive and tell him why the pen test that you just did for him or her, that they paid 10, 15, 20, 30, $40,000 for, if you can't make them understand what the value in that was, because you're throwing out all these technical terms and patting yourself on the back at all the boxes you popped, you're not going to last long in that business. No one's going to want you, even if you're really good at it. No one's going to want you.
Of course.
Right? So learn those soft skills too. I highly recommend, and this goes back, right? Here we go. We're heading back to the well. Do something like a CTF. Instead of doing a write-up of here's how I beat the CTF, treat it like a client. Treat it like they were your pen testing client. They ordered a pen test from you. Write a pen test report that you were going to submit it to a client. Here's an executive summary. Here's an appendix. Here's the table of contents. Here's all the annotated notes. Here's everything. Do it just like you think. A, you're going to get practice doing that. B, you're going to get to be able to put that in like GitLab or Gitbook or that kind of stuff and point to it as a reference of I have experience, because once you built that thing, once you've done that, you don't have to write familiar with pen test reports. You get to write experience with pen test reports. That's a big difference on resumes. It goes a long way. Yeah. So be doing that for every CTF you do. Treat it like it was a client and tell a narrative. Client requested, this was the scope. This is the, there's what in scope, here's what out scope, here's the exceptions. Here's my, make up people's names or use the names, because a lot of CTFs have some of them have like storylines or usernames and stuff. Utilize all that stuff to build a narrative around it and write that out and make it available online, post it as a blog and say, oh, I had a lot of fun doing the CTF and I treated it like I was a pen tester on a job and they were my client. Here's the write-up. That's a much cooler thing than just giving me the bouncing ball of did an Nmap scan, found these open ports, saw port 80 was open, scanned with NIC2, scanned with, whatever other scanner, Arachne or whatever, and found this vulnerability, checked for this, found that, was able to do a SQL injection, from SQL injection, dump the database. We've all seen those, and those are fine. Those are cool. But imagine how, like, you're going for the next level. You're trying to set yourself apart so that when someone's looking at your body of work, they go, wow, that's the word you want coming out of the head of someone that might be hiring you. Wow. They're
Of
really
course.
passionate about this.
So yeah, of course. Thank you for all these answers. It was really, really enjoyable having you on my channel, and I hope that people have gained insights and are better able to choose their path forward. And as we mentioned, hacking platforms like TryHackMe, Hack the Box, Pico CTF, Volhub, etc., etc. And yeah, will definitely be useful for those who want to enhance their skills to get into into cybersecurity. And yeah, and of course, I will share Daniel's social media and his channel with you, and as well as IT Pro TV. I would definitely recommend to watch playlists about IT and CompTIA security and you know and more. So yeah, I think thank you, Daniel, for these answers. It was really enjoyable,
Yeah.
and
Thank you so much for
yeah.
having me on. I love talking about this stuff. Very passionate about it, as you probably have picked up on. And like you said, I really hope that I'm able to help someone figure out, how do I get to where I want to be and land that cybersecurity job. I want to see you guys succeed. Like you said, definitely throw my socials up and let people know. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn a lot, because that's kind of my space. But so hit me up. I'm happy to chat with you, or send you a message, or just connect.
Yeah. So of course, if you have any questions, um, if you get struggle, it doesn't matter. You can always ask us. And yeah, thank you. And of course, for Turkish people, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm also sharing Turkish posts, resources, also in English and Russian. It doesn't matter. It only has to with resources, so no worries. And yeah, good luck and have a nice day.